It's clear that over the past couple of weeks that the rhetoric on the Korean Peninsula, John, has really been stepped up, and that's because that the United Nations has been tightening its sanctions against North Korea in response to it conducting a third nuclear test in February and launching what many countries believe to be a long-range rocket in December. And so there's been a lot of military activity on the Korean Peninsula, a lot of diplomatic pressure put on North Korea as well, and it's reacted very badly. But we're getting almost daily threats now coming out of North Korea, particularly directed towards the United States. Just a few days ago, there was a military exercise here which involved B-52 bombers from the United States flying over South Korea in conjunction with South Korean forces, their allies, of course. That's the direct reason I expect that this quite direct threat, this quite specific threat, has been issued this time by the North Koreans. Take a listen to what was said on North Korean television a few hours ago.
The U.S. should not forget that the Andersen Air Force Base on Guam, where B-52 takes off, and naval bases in Japan proper and Okinawa, where nuclear-powered submarines are launched, are within the striking range of the DPRK's precision strike means.
As I say, tensions on the Korean Peninsula are really hotting up. The latest example of that, it seems, possibly, is this cyber attack that has so badly affected various institutions here in South Korea. South Korean investigators now say they've identified an IP address inside China. It doesn't mean China's involved specifically. It, in fact, strengthens the idea that North Korea may be involved in this, because in the past they've used Chinese servers to deliver cyber attacks to South Korea. But the investigations are still continuing, John.
Matthew, the big picture here, though, is that there have been military exercises in the past between the United States and South Korea. The North Koreans are no stranger to sanctions coming from the United Nations, but they never actually quite this way before. You mentioned the rhetoric, which seems to be coming out almost on a daily basis. This is a difficult question, but is there any way to know exactly what might be going on inside North Korea, which is different this time?
Well, it's difficult to say, because obviously we don't have the kind of access to North Korea that we have to other countries. But what we do know, of course, is that the country has a new leader, Kim Jong-un. He's relatively young. He's less than 30 years old. He's unproven. His father was a hardliner, of course. Perhaps there's a sense in which, and many sort of analysts of North Korea have been commenting on this, that Kim Jong-un is trying to sort of beef up his credentials with the military, beef up his credentials as a hardliner, and that's why perhaps we're seeing such tough rhetoric coming out of the Korean Peninsula at the moment, coming out of North Korea specifically. It may also be why he's pushed ahead so actively with his rocket program, the launch of that long-range rocket, which North Korea says was to launch a satellite, but which many countries believe was a long-range rocket test back in December, the nuclear test back in February as well. All these things pointing to the idea that Kim Jong-un is trying to cast himself, even though he's very young, as somebody who can support the hardline military stance of his father in North Korea.